Within a day, stop. This is the message I was given, comforting my people. And I didn't quite know why, and as the week went on, things began to happen. Someone called me one day, and she had a whole bunch of things on her mind, and she started just going over this, and over that, and over this, and over that. And then another friend of mine called, and he had something that he wanted to tell me about, and he went on about that. And then about that, and then about that, and then about that. Okay, and then another person called me, and we must have been on the phone for an hour, more than an hour, and she just keeps going over all this stuff. I thought, okay, there's a need in the body. We're not all having a good time. And there's a passage, and I think it's in Daniel. It's in Daniel 7:25. And it talks about the enemy coming against us, and he shall wear out the saints. And I think so many people are being worn out by all the different things that are coming against them. And so there's a need for God's people to be comforted, and he wants us to be comforted in the midst of everything that we have to go through. We see things happening all the time. All the things that are happening over in the Middle East. With the Hamas, and we can say to ourselves, well, that's not me, that's not my home, that's not my city, but it is for these people. And we have other things that bother us just the same. All these things we have to deal with, and we may find ourselves in the not too distant future in that same kind of thing. These people want to get to us. They have no love for us any more than they do for the people over there. So there's a call for endurance. We have to persevere, and that's something people don't want to hear. But there are also times we're called to comfort and give hope. In our culture, hope is wishful thinking, but that's not what it means in the Hebrew. It's expectation and it's confidence. And there are two different words that I see, mikvah and tikvah. Mikvah, you had mentioned about bathing. Mikvah can also be a pool. If you're in a desert, a pool is a place of expectation. Once you see that pool, you have water. You have something to keep yourself going. You have something to wash with. That pool is a sign of hope. And so we have that mikvah as being hope. It's not something indefinite. It's not something you wish for, something you can see. It's something you can get hold of. And you know when you see it, you have no doubt. You're confident in that. So as I thought about all this, I thought instead of just going through and pulling out different passages, I would talk more to some things that have happened to me over the years. I think that's going to be a better way to do this. That's how homeschoolers do it with their children. Instead of just having a school session, they talk about everyday things. We're going to make a pie. We're going to need so much of this, so much of that. And you're going to teach them fractions and how to mix things and how to think on their own. And so as I just pull these things out, I think there'll be some things that are meaningful. So, just pull my notes together here. Years ago, when I was a younger man, there was something else I had to endure. And there were a couple messages that came down for me from the Father. And one of them he gave just to me, myself. And he said, what you need is in my word. Just get in there, find it, and I'll give you the understanding. And when Moses spoke, when Samuel spoke, when the different people were told to speak to the people and tell them what was in the Word of God, they were told not just to say it to them, they had to give them the understanding that went behind it. So you can see where sometimes they stood out there all day. It doesn't take all day to go through a passage. But if you're going to take one thing and give them the sense behind it, and another and the sense behind that, it's going to take some time. And they had to deal with all the people. And then there were some other people to whom he spoke with a message for me. And what he said to them was, teach him, being me, teach him to love me. Because even though I had known him my whole life, there was never a time when I didn't know him. I've known him always. That's just the way I came into being. The elders in my family would say that my mother had me in church from the day I was born, and ever since then. And I don't know a time when I never was. Circumcised on the 8th day, the whole 9 yards, she just had me there. And I was there every week. And as I got older, I just continued to go. But there's more to just knowing about him, it's knowing him more deeply. And so that's what these people were going to do. Chief among them was my mentor. I didn't decide I wanted a mentor. It never even entered my mind. But just as Yeshua said to his disciples one day, you didn't choose me, I chose you. This guy comes up to me and says, you're mine. And I'm thinking, what? But he decides he's going to mentor me. I said, okay, yeah, that's going to happen. But it did. He had come out of the Philadelphia Jesus people. He had gone into the service. He was a few years older than I was. And when he got in there, he decided that he was going to be a good man of God to all these other soldiers in there with him. And his sergeant took note of that. His sergeant said to himself, this is what I've been told. We can use this. We can use this. So, with everyone all together, why is nothing happening?
It should happen, but I'll make it happen.
Okay, you make it. This is what he heard. This is what they all heard. His sergeant was not going to make it easy on him. He just pulled him out. You can see from his name, he was Jewish. And if you know something about Jews, pigs are unclean animals. So he gave him a whole new name. And he made fun of him and he mocked him in front of all the other soldiers. And this went on for weeks. And he had to put up with that. But the sergeant, I'm sure, understood that these young men were going to go over to Vietnam. They were going to fight. They had to be tough, they had to know their business, they had quite a bit to get under their belts in just a few weeks before they shipped them off, or they would not be coming back. So he gave them what they needed to survive. And this was part of it. Some of the discipline, some of the confidence that my mentor had to have in who he was as a man, and who he was as a person of faith, and how he's going to be a man with his buddies when they get over there. So by the time the sergeant was done, he knew how to fight, he knew how to kill people, but he knew how to save them and how to watch over them, how to keep their back. And I guess that was helpful for me when he found me, even though I said, no, we're not doing this, but he just made it happen. Elena, I'm so happy to see you here today. Tell me something. Does Ava still wake you up at night? Still have to feed her?
Once in a while.
Once in a while. You still have to change diapers? Okay, you got a big smile on your face. How do you feel about that? Pretty good, and you haven't stopped smiling. How many months old is she? I can't see with these on. Okay, that's about what I thought. So all this time, you're just as happy as ever with her, aren't you? Yeah, I'm not surprised. And that's how God feels all about us, because He is our Father. And especially if you haven't had a good father, people don't always understand that. You can go to the next one. I was 32. Jennifer there is somewhere between 10 minutes and 40 minutes old.
Wow.
And if you haven't seen me smile much, I was just the way he is now. Weeks after, months after, I'm still smiling. That didn't just go away. Go to the next one.
You gotta work now too. You can do it if you want. I feel like
So years later, you can imagine I was still smiling over that. That's my daughter. And she's going to be 28 this year. She's in Virginia. And if she comes up, I'm still going to have that big smile, the same one he still has on his face. Because I know he's all the way in the back, you can't all see him, but he hasn't stopped smiling. I can still see his teeth. And that's how a father feels about us. And one of the nice things about him is that he's outside of time. So he can see us this way and this way all the time, anytime, and he's just as happy with us. So we can't, can we? Can we do that? So that's just something to think about, that he doesn't always wait for us to be in a position and say, oh, you're wonderful, you're awesome, you are my child. From the day we come forth, every day thereafter, he's always there on our side, he's always behind us. And he always thinks we're wonderful. And no matter what happens, he's always there. I'm not sure why I put this in here, but it's in. I guess I thought I put this in, I might want to use it. And I've talked about this sometime before. People have their ideas of what they expect out of a savior. And some time ago, someone put an article out about whoever heard of a Jewish strongman. Well, a lot of us have. His name was Samson. And Samson did all kinds of things to save the Jewish people. But this article wasn't about Samson, it was about Superman. Because Superman was a comic book character, and he was the creation of some Jewish men. Because they wanted their people to have someone, not just a pansy and a weakling, which is what most people thought of them. So they came up with Superman. And they gave both him and his father Jewish names. His father's name meant God will uplift. And his own name is Hebrew for voice or vessel, being the voice of God, the vessel of God. And they put these different things into him, and over the years, over the decades, the people behind that continue to be Jews. The Nazis understood this, and they had some choice things to say about the man who created Superman. And I forget the name of the Nazi publication, Schwarzkopf, the newspaper of the SS. And there they had some choice words for both Siegel and for Superman, because they understood what he embodied. They saw him as something Jewish, and they understood that by using that in their minds, they were poisoning the minds of American youth. Because here was a man who stood for all the things that Moses was teaching the people. So we see that, and how all the different analogies are in there, and the message is still consistent. God is our Father. He takes us wherever He wants us. He puts us where He wants us. He puts us there because He wants us to do something. In those comics, Superman was sent out by his father, and he said, you're going to be here. You're going to be a savior to these people. And that's what Siegel wanted. He was waiting for his Messiah to show up and do those same kinds of things. But He's given us more than that, because He's given us each other. And as you pointed out this morning, we each have our different gifts. And with the gifts that He's given us, we're supposed to use those to comfort one another and to help one another with the things that we don't ourselves have. The other people are there. So often we want to hear from God. We want Him to speak to us. Sometimes He does, sometimes He doesn't. And we don't always hear the things that we want to hear or the way we want to hear them. But sometimes He speaks to us in ways that we don't expect. I could pull out a book with all my children, they're adults now, but I could have done this. I could have just pulled out a book every day and just gone through it. And after so many weeks, they'd be bored to tears, and they wouldn't want to hear it. But beyond that, there are other ways that I can get to them, ways I can teach them, and ways they know that I could care about them. I can tell them, but sometimes they need to see it. And so often our Father does that with us in ways that we don't always expect. Birthday. And they're my kids. I don't have to say anything. They're having a party with one another. They've got their cake, the big white dog, and the other stuff. This is just one of the small ways they know that their Father loves them. And so many times He touches us and does something simple like that. It's not always in black and white. It's not always something that we have to think about. It's just obvious and small things that He does. I used to watch mothers and grandmothers pull out photos of the pocketbooks and show them off even if nobody wanted to see them. And I kind of hang my head. I've never done that. I don't think I ever will. But I've shown all these pictures of my beautiful children, and not that many. Something I don't normally do. And you can think, yeah, this guy has issues. Okay, I do. And maybe this isn't one of them. But it's two-sided because in the same way that I do this, and the same way that my mentor Sergeant did stuff with him, there are two sides to everything. Yeshua's father was tougher than nails. He had to be because the son was going to hang on him. And at the same time, he was as compassionate, as we know, because he's given us everything. My mentor was one of the most gentle men I've ever known. But he was tough. He was tough enough to go to Vietnam and survive and come back. And I admire that. And I wasn't going to say anything about this, but because of quite a few things that have come out this morning, people keep mentioning to me. I'll mention it for the benefit of those that don't know this. My job as a chauffeur keeps me out all kinds of hours. And Sunday morning at 3 a.m., I was finally heading home. Heading up 146, there's almost nobody out there. Just a few cars, and as I'm heading up, about halfway up, I look up and I see behind me there's a car, and he's way back there, I'm guessing about 500 feet, which is just under a tenth of a mile, for those who don't do your math. And he's moving, and he's zigzagging. He's not avoiding anything. He's as if he's stoned, smashed, I don't know what, and I thought to myself as fast as I could, this is not good. And he was heading my way, and I figured, well, if I move out of the way, he could move with me and hit me. If I just stand still, he might hit me anyway. I don't have too many choices here, and all this just goes through my head quite fast. And so I thought, I'm not sure what I should do here. I think I'll just keep going the way I'm going. But from the time I saw him, those 500 feet or so away, he was only in about 3 seconds. Now, I know when you are in that kind of situation, time just seems to come to a stop. And I think it did somewhat, which means that 1 second can seem like 10, but it's actually still 1. So if I'm thinking he was on me in 3 seconds, there's a chance he was on me sooner than I thought. Anyway, if you do the math, that means at 500 feet, he's coming at me at over 100 miles an hour. So I was not happy. And my sense of distance and time was pretty good, so I know he was speeding, because I was going 60 and he was way faster than I was going. He hit me on the passenger side, knocked me into the concrete divider that divides northbound from southbound. And after that, I wasn't quite sure what happened, except I knew there was a car ahead of me, and there was a shower of sparks, and it was continuous, just more than you would see with one of those handheld sparklers, just everywhere, so much I couldn't see much of anything else. And there was smoke, so at that point I couldn't see the pavement. So I'm just wondering, am I still here? Am I in this lane? Am I too near to the divider? Am I over near the edge? I'm going to go into the ditch and hit a tree. I didn't know where I was going, so I wasn't sure what to do. If this car's going to stop, I don't want to go so fast I'm going to go into them. I don't want to go into a skid. I didn't know what to do. So I was quite scared. And when I said this to some people, I said, I was scared out of my wits. But I think about that now, and I wasn't. Because I had my wits about me, and I knew that I had to do something and just say, Father, help me, which is what I said. So in that aspect, I had my wits about me, but I didn't say it, I screamed it. I don't think I've ever been so scared. Just going at that speed and I can't see the pavement and wondering if I'm going to hit that or something else. And I didn't even have time to see what was behind me, but I knew there were other cars back there, even though there were not many. So I just screamed, Father, help me, and he did. Mm-hmm. So when that whole thing was over, I found out that he had hit, I don't know how many other cars, 2 or 3 other cars. There were a whole bunch of us standing on the side waiting for the state police to show up. I could not open the passenger door. He had taken care of that. I could open my door just a bit and squeeze myself out. But I was fine. And I keep thinking about that. And so sometimes I just wonder about that, because it doesn't quite make sense to me. I thought, well, how come I'm fine? I mean, the next day I was a bit sore, but after that I'm fine again. And I was thinking about Job, and I don't mean to compare myself to Job by any means, but in the book it begins how the sons of God had to go up before him and just present themselves, and God says to Satan, so, have you considered my man Job, my servant Job? And there was no one like him. And Satan says, yeah, but you've hedged him in. If you touch all that he's got and so forth, he'll deny you and he'll curse you to your face. God says, okay, you go get him. Don't touch him, but you can touch everything he's got. And I think about that, and I'm wondering, how did this car get away? We've got this other car sitting on the pavement up against the concrete. It's a pancake. Somehow the guy in there survived. He's injured, but he survived. We've got these other cars and these other people, and then there's me, but the one who hit us is gone. Just gone, and he hasn't been caught yet. Nobody knows who it was or where he went. I thought, okay, I'm going to assume it was a car, but I don't know that. And I know that Satan went after Job. Did you send someone or something after me just to do this? I mean, my car has been totaled, and it's in quite bad shape. And the state, he said, you can drive it home, but then a couple of days after, my mechanic saw it, the man who towed it saw it, they said, I can't believe you drove this thing home. This wheel's about to come off. The underside is gone, because I couldn't see underneath the car. But they said, you never should have taken this thing home. I mean, as it did, I went 20 miles an hour to get home. But I think about that and I thought, wow. 1, 2, 3 cars hit, and this guy isn't stopped himself? So it just makes me wonder what was going on, what's happening there. And if I ask him about that, I'm not quite sure what to make of it, except one of the conversations we had was, you don't have any cuts, do you? Nope. You don't have any bumps, do you? Nope. Your bones okay? Yup. Everything else, well, it was tense for a day, but I was kind of beside myself, but I got over that. Okay, so you're fine. Yep. And it's not as if I were miles away at the time, was I now? Nope. So why'd you scream? It's okay, it's okay, you did okay, maybe do better the next time. Next time? Next time? No, but we don't need to do this the next time. But the thing is, he's always there, he's always with us, he's always keeping us. And whether we enjoy it or not, sometimes there is a next time. Right? And it just gets easier, gets better. And it's somehow for us to know him better. And I knew in that moment I could call upon him, and I did. And he kept me. And yet sometimes before that happens, we're not always sure. If you find yourself in no job, sometimes you're saying, so now what do I do? When my father died years ago, I thought to myself, now what do I do? He was 80 when he died. I was about 50. And I thought, wow, he knew all this stuff that I still don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. You'd think at my age I would know better than that. But you begin to find out that even at that age there's so much more that you don't know, that your elders do. Yes, my elder? Don't say a thing. Don't say a thing.
Good.
The sergeant who sent my mentor off to Vietnam did the best he could with him. He had him there for weeks. He gave him all the next times that he could, because he wasn't God. He didn't know what these men were going to come up against. He had a good idea, but he didn't know what or how often. He just knew there would be next times, and he gave it as much as he could. So when the time came, he was as confident as he could be that these men were well trained to go out to Vietnam and do the fighting they had to do and then come back. And I think God gives us everything we need. We just need to know him. So at one point, he's the Father who adores us and will do everything to love us and keep us. And he's the sergeant who says, okay, this is what you need to do. And I think it's important to keep in mind how he sees us. And I mentioned this before, of how I saw my daughter. I think my son must be 4. And I think there are times when he sees us in our younger years and says, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And at the same time, he's seeing us at whatever age. As I said before, he sees us when we're at an older age. My son was 4, he's 22 now. So he's a man. And I don't have the, I don't know what to call it. I wish I could do what he does, that he can see us at every different point and know that whether I'm this age or that age, he still adores me. Whether I fail or not, he still adores me. And he keeps us. I think about some of the things that are going on in the Middle East. And I think about the kids. I think I was in 2nd grade, and my sister was in 4th, and there was a boy in the 5th grade. And he used to pick on my sister all the time. And if you had seen pictures, I mean, I look just the way my son did. I mean, people, my extended family, when my son was born, said, oh my goodness, that is little Paul. Small, short, skinny, same hair, everything. Yeah, I wish I still had the hair. Some people think all my children get their hair from their mother. No, they get it all from me. She did not have that kind of hair I did. But it changed in my teen years. Got kinky, and then I was Garfunkel. Could not get a comb in it. I miss that. But he would comb at my sister all the time. So here I am in second grade, and you can picture all these second graders. I'm a full head shorter than everybody else. A full head shorter. I was pretty much always the shortest one. I never grew up till I was about, 16 or so. I just shot up one summer. So here I am, and my sister is in 4th grade, and she's a good bit taller than I am. And then this is 5th grader, and I'm thinking, I can't do this. I have a hard enough time with the kids in my own class. Forget some 5th grader. I can't go after this kid and take him down. And we see the bullies over there in the Middle East, the Hamas, going after the whole nation of Israel. And I see the media and they say, you know, you're nice that you tell Hamas, you know, that you're giving the people 45 minutes warning to get out before you bomb them, but you shouldn't be doing that. But no one's saying, well, you know, the Hamas don't give anyone a warning, and they don't care who they're bombing. They just send it off. So I'm thinking, well, who's the bully here? And who wants to defend themselves? And I know that God is watching over them because His Word tells us He's going to save them. And in the same way, He's watching over each of us as individuals. Because no matter who comes after us, He has His eye on us. And so He's going to be there whether we see Him or not. He's going to be there just as He saved me this past Sunday. He's going to be there whether it's because you don't have food in the house, or because somebody is sick, or because somebody just died, or because you just lost your job, or because you have too many people coming to your door wanting you to pay bills that haven't been paid in 6 months. Whatever. So, that is pretty much what I had to say. That's the message that I have been getting for the last couple weeks. Just comfort ye, my people, and to the extent that you know Him and know that He's your Father and He will do everything He can for you, and you may not understand it, but as you had said, ultimately we win. And some of us are just waiting for Him, but He'll do it in His good time.
Hallelujah.